Hello. I've been messing around with Create Mod quite a lot, and I have a few things to show you, and I swear, on my mama, on my life, okay, if you don't find something in this video that, helps you in some way, my life is yours, okay? My life will be yours. Seriously. So, first one, pretty simple. Most people have already probably thought about this. Diesel engines are cool. It's kind of the only good way to power small stuff. Regular engines, fine. But when you really get to the big leagues, you need a steam engine, alright? So, this is just my design. This is a level 6 steam engine. And to turn it on, you just boom, boom, turn both of these off, wait for it to start up, and then we flick this, and it's on. Right, pretty simple. You can make your own. This is kind of the hard mechanism. So lava goes from here into the spout up here. Spout fills this bucket with lava, okay? Bucket goes down onto depot, and then mechanical arm takes lava, puts it in blaze burner, takes bucket, puts it back up here, and then it just loops around and around and around, etc., etc. I'll put a link to the schematic for this in the description. To start it, just fill this with fill this with water, and fill this with lava, and put buckets in here. Okay? Okay, so that's the first bit. Oh, and this is 100,000 SU, by the way, which, for this size, I think it can't. This is probably the I know for a fact this is the thinnest and shortest this can get, and I think it's the slimmest as well, but I'm not sure. Next is the drive transmission. What is a drive transmission? Well, I don't even know if that's a real name. I'm just calling it that. But cars, right? So, what if we want to go backwards and forwards at differentiable speeds? Well, sticking to throttle levers on the ground, I guess, is an option, but I think that's kind of lame. I think we can do better than that, especially with wanting to use linked typewriters. And so that's what this does, right? So we've got two accumulators here, and as you can see, if we hold the up one, this is going to speed up to maximum speed, right? We turn that off. We turn on this one, it's going to decrease, and now it's negative. This is negative, and now it's moving in reverse. Okay, so pretty simple mechanism. How does it work? Well, we've got two accumulators, okay? So the accumulator equals the same side, so we'll say this is the positive output, right? So this one's going to be plus the positive, minus the negative, and then minus the opposing accumulator. And then this one's the negative accumulator, so it's plus the negative, minus the positive accumulator, okay? And then how we interpret that is we just have 15, right? We subtract either one of these, because only one of them is going to be on at any point, which means if this is 15, we want this to be 0, right? So we're just subtracting 15 from 15. So it's one or the other, right? Just that simple. And then you just put a directional gear shift with the positive on one side, the negative on the other, and then that'll switch it. So that's a drive transmission. Pretty cool. This is the edge detector I made. What is an edge detector? Well, in circuits, an edge detector it effectively creates a pulse whenever the input changes. And so that's what this does, but more on like a comparator scale. So we have our throttle lever here, right? Or, maybe some accumulators. You can make two of these actually and then have a drive transmission with accumulators, but I feel like it's kind of useless. And so then what we do is if we flick this up, this is going to start pulsing over X ticks equal to the difference from whatever it was originally, right? And then this is the positive side, and this is the negative side. So if I flip this down, instead of this side ticking, it's going to be this side. Right? Boom, 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 boom. And if we count it, so we're going from 0 to 15, right? So it's 15 ticks. So we're counting how many times this one pulses. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Boom. 15. Right? Pretty cool. 6, 7. What would you use this for? I made it a while ago. I don't remember, but I remember it was useful for something, and then I forgot. So, whatever. You figure that out. It's cool, though. Have fun. Comparator math. In case you don't know how comparator math works. Oh, and also they get cooler down the way, so please don't leave. Please don't. I need this. Comparator math. So, basically, we have this. This is just kind of your basic chain with however many variables you want. So 15 minus our initial input right here, plus ABC, minus DEF. Okay? So whichever side, because we're inverting it, like if you remember from earlier, right, we had 15 and then we did minus, 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 but we are inverting that number then, and so all these become plus, 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 right? And then these are now minus, minus, minus. So we're just adding all these, subtracting all these. So we do 7 plus 8, that's 15, minus 5, that's 10. Boom, we can subtract 4 more, get to 6. We can increase this to 15 to increase our base. But overall, I think this is just a pretty cool system to have because it lets you do stuff like you can have, it's like 13, for example. The someone else's craft I was testing out earlier, they had this at, I think, 13, so that they effectively had extra power to work with, right? Extra power that they could reduce in case one of these. If you remember maybe you don't. But in my PID video from a couple weeks ago, I subtracted the proportional, or sorry, the derivative from the proportional, meaning if the proportional was 0, then nothing would happen because you can't subtract from 0, right? This effectively fixes that. So you kind of just have a chain of everything you want to add and then everything you want to subtract. Boom, boom, done. And then also just, conceptually, just thinking about using several analog transmissions. So if you, say, have your drive and then a PID on top of that, you can run both of them at the same time, not have them interfere with each other. I think that's pretty cool. You can have one speeding up maybe and one slowing down, so kind of the inverse of this almost. And so that's just kind of general conceptual stuff. This is the next, so spring shenanigans. So the spring actually has some hidden features that are not listed anywhere, even in the ponder, shockingly, and its interactions with redstone, which I think are pretty cool. So the spring has 2 interactions with redstone. The first one is when you turn it, the comparator on either side will output the according value relative to the maximum degree, right? So we're turned 90 degrees out of 90 degrees. That means we will output 15, okay? And then same in the reverse direction. And this is the cooler one in my opinion. If you power a torsion spring, it actually locks it in place, right? So boom, this is now locked. This is locked at 90 degrees. It's not moving. It's stuck. And that's pretty sick. So what can we do with that? Well, a lot of things. So this is not mine. This was made by Percy Creeper. There's his YouTube channel. But this takes the input from a steering wheel and converts it. But it doesn't need to be a steering wheel, right? You could use, again, like a drive transmission to create those outputs. But it takes this steering wheel input and then it converts it into the angle for the transmission, right? So if we turn this all the way to the right, boom, 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 it's going to match it slowly. It's not perfect. It's kind of big, but it's cool, and it's just kind of shows you what's possible. So this is probably the most variable system. And then there are more options as well, depending on what you need. So this is the other option, which I have seen used a lot, though I did come across it myself, which is combining torsion springs into one. And this is extremely, extremely useful because say you just have, obviously if you just have 2 things that are affecting, so you want to say your W is pushing your tilt rotors forward and your D is pushing one forward and one back, and those are just fixed distances, then this is cool. But just with 30 and 60, we actually get 7 total options for what we can use, right? So we've got negative 90, okay, negative 60, okay, negative 30, okay, 30, 60, 90. Boom. Isn't that awesome? Just with this. The only problem is if you click 2 at the same time, it kind of breaks, but it's honestly hard to do at max speed. I mean, can I just like... I really can't. Yeah, I can't do it. Yeah, it's very fast, so I wouldn't worry about that too much, though it is something to just look out for, just in case. This is another system, or, well, I guess I'll do this one first. This is a system that I used on my tilt rotor, right, using the inverted, or using some redstone torches to flip the input. And so effectively what you have here is this will push your mechanical bearing forward, and this one will push it backward, or maybe other way around, I don't know. So boom, so that pushed it forward, backward, oh, hey, oh. Look at that, beautiful. So I have perfect control over what I want to, I mean, I wouldn't say perfect, but I've great control over over what I want it to be, right? Very analog, very nice, and this is just that, but with a directional gear shift instead of just a regular clutch. So this actually allows me to move in 2 directions, right? So I can move forward, I can move backwards, and then I've kind of got a return to 0, right? And so just having the ability to lock torsion springs in general, I think, is very useful. Because, you know, you can have kind of permanent directional change and whatnot. But there are even more methods I want to show you in a second. And so these are sequence gear shifts, or just little uses. This is just kind of something I wanted to flex with the thing I'm working on right now. So you can actually do very cool, just nice, easy landing gear with sequence gear shifts, which I think is pretty cool. It just flips upside down, boom, boom. Versus, you know, some large thing with like torsion springs and a directional gear shift. Blah, lame. Anyways, this is another kind of rotary mechanism for, say, a wing, but this, I would say, is even more variable, right? So what we have here is 2 directional gear shifts. One of them is set to 30 degrees forwards, and one of them is set to 30 degrees backwards. And so what I didn't mention about this design right here, and this one actually, is that if you're doing it on 2 rotors simultaneously, there's actually a very high chance they get desynced just because of, I don't know, delay, I guess. I'm not even really sure why. So if you don't have the ability to hook them out to the same power source and make sure they get the same rotation, I think this is actually a better solution, because you just sacrifice some of the analog ability of some of it, right? So if we turn this on, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, 30 degrees, right? Every single time, it's going to be 30 degrees, no matter how fast I click it, too. It really doesn't matter how fast I click it. And as you can see, we're going to line up perfectly, perfect 180, right? And I can do the same thing with the other side. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. And once again, 180 degrees. I mean, yeah, 0 degrees, whatever. It's lined up. It's lined up very well and very swifty and very cool. And this is super clean, so you can get super accurate things with this. All right. Next bit. Gyroprop toggle. So obviously, we all already know it's in the ponder, that if you give a gyroscopic propeller redstone input, then it will disable the gyroscopic abilities.
Oh, but Monkey, that's not useful for what I'm making. I need the gyroscope or the whole thing flips over.
Well, see, that's because you're bad at the game, okay? So, yes, this thing is very good for balancing. It balances very well, as we can see on this little contraption I've made. But the issue is that helicopters typically rely on being able to tilt themselves to go forward and not some auxiliary third power source, right? And even then, you should be doing this. You should be doing the same thing, because the only thing determining the strength of these propellers is just the number of sails, and it's quadratic, right? So if you have 5 sails, that's 5 squared 25, and then you split it into 2 propellers, you've got 50 total. But if you just put those on one propeller, right, then you have 100, so it's already double the total force. And then if you have that running at a 45-degree angle, you get 2 root 2, which is which would mean you're getting approximately 70 per. So just from combining it into one and using tilt, you gain 2 point or 1 point. Wait. 2.8. 2.8? I don't know. Almost 3x the power, I think. I don't know. I'm tired. And so, well, but it's so hard. It's so hard to balance your helicopter. Actually, it's not. Physics kind of does the whole thing for you, right? So we have the gyro right here. I just turned it on. And, you know, it's, okay, well, it's not falling over, but it's perfectly balanced. Well, what if I just rotate the prop? Not falling over. This is completely ungyrocated. This is just raw force coming out of here, and yet it is settled into a perfectly balanced angle. Isn't that beautiful? And then we can do the same thing in reverse, right? And now we've got beautiful, beautiful lift coming across, right? And again, the increased, whatchamacallit, so it's, yeah, 2.8x the total power. And, you know, how does this work? I mean, you can effectively imagine, or how I like to imagine at least, is that take, say, an L-shaped thing in your house and lift the short end with your finger, right? Kind of like this, a little bit like this. So this would be our L because this is the heavier side, and it's going to lean in. So this heavy bit is going to lean in towards where you're holding it, right? Because it wants to kind of nullify. I don't really know how to explain this. It wants to nullify the angle, I guess. I'm not really sure, but yeah, you get stable pitch, you get stable roll actually too, which is the other cool part about this. So both of those will automatically stabilize. I mean, the center of mass on this thing by no means has to be perfect. It will settle into a perfectly stable pitch. It's just, it obviously is optimal to get the rotation as close to the center as you can. So that way you just have a more stable pitch at 0, at level. But, like, this is fighting gravity, and I mean, I don't know how smart that really is in the long run. So, sure, if you want to make your lame little helicopters and just stick 2 andesite propellers on the back and lose 70% of your fuel efficiency, go for it. I just think this is cooler, it's more effective, it's more efficient, and it requires more skill. Alright. Oh, actually, one last thing. Axiom. You may have noticed that I can kind of clip through the blocks. Axiom, if you've never built before, is kind of like World Edit. It's like a newer World Edit with certain features. It's honestly just very useful in general, so I can just do something like that and just bring stuff out. It works with all the copycats, all the modded blocks. You just have to, I like to use World Edit and then update the blocks. Update neighbors to make sure that they don't break. My redstone doesn't break. And that's it. Thank you. Goodbye.